Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we're just talking about all the books I read in the first month of 2021. Now, I gotta warn you, it's a bit of a mixed bag in, all senses of the word. Genre, opinion, format, what exactly I read this month, or last month, I have no clue, but I did it, and we're gonna talk about it today. I decided to start off the year with a quick, easy, nice, simple reread, and that is The Complete Tales of Winnie the Pooh and House on Pooh's Corner. Buying up both of the books. It's a nice, simple reread for me. This is my themed item, my personal favorite children's classic. I tried reading or listening to an audiobook while I followed along with this one. I did not like the audiobook, and as much as I love the stories, it almost ruined it for me, so I continued on just reading my own physical copy. There's a little note on the back of the actual stuffed animals that inspired the story, and apparently Roo is missing. They have Kanga, they do not have Roo, so that's a fun little fact here. Again, reread, 4 or 5 stars, it's a children's classic, what do you expect? On that train of thought, the next book I picked up was One Special Tree. This is a picture book of Winnie the Pooh. I don't know how to talk about picture books. I don't normally read them. The sun just went away. I'm sorry about that. I think I gave this 3 stars. There's nothing special to it, but it's enjoyable. That's kind of all I have to say. Another reread, this one I'm actually really excited to talk about, and that is The Night Circus. This is one of my favorite books, and I listened to it on audiobook the first time I consumed this content, and I was I needed a physical copy just to flip through whenever I want. Finally got a hold of one, and I'm you know what, I'm gonna treat myself. I'm gonna reread this entire story, and I did, and I loved it, and it's still one of my favorites. I still don't like the way the relationship was portrayed. If you know me, I don't like romance in the first place, and this book was just meh on the romance, but everything else, the wonder, the magic, the epicness, it's all still perfect. This story is all centered around a magical circus that opens at dusk and closes at dawn. It is this wonderful magical place, technically set in our world, but magic's involved. And this magical circus, I'm saying magical a lot because that's what the story is the playing ground for the competition of these 2 magicians. They don't know what they are fighting for. They don't know what happens if they win or lose. They just know that they got sucked into this competition at a young age. And it's you get to watch it play out, and it's really good. Like I mentioned, I'm not a big fan of how the relationships were done. I feel there is, I don't want to say emotional cheating, but it feels like there's emotional cheating in here. So be warned about that. But it's so good. I really love this book. After that, I picked up the audiobook for Empire of Gold. This is the last book in the Daevavad trilogy. This series, it's everyone talks about how much they love this series. It is about a girl who grew up on the streets of Cairo until one day she accidentally summons a djinn and she is whisked away to a magical hidden city of djinn. And it's the first book was so wonderful and amazing and introducing you to this magical hidden city, and it's powers and magic and epicness, and there's this secret being revealed about our main character's family. It's what's going on here? Who does she know? How does she fit into this puzzle piece? And then book 2 was all politics, and I do not like politics. And then book 3 kind of tied them together, kind of brought it back, but it was so long. This book is so ridiculously long. I enjoyed it, but as someone who I don't like a huge portion of the concept of this book, it dragged so much. Once again, I didn't like the way the relationship was played out in this series, but that's kind of standard. There is this weird love triangle going on, and I didn't like the way it played out. I didn't like the conclusion of the love triangle. The conclusion of the book was very good. I liked the way everything was tied up, but some things, I have nitpicks about everything else in this book. I gave it 4 stars, but that's a tentative 4 stars. There's some things I could pick apart about this I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is the 3rd book in a series, so I'm gonna stop talking so I don't go into spoilers. Another reread for me, and that is All's Well That Ends Well. This is a William Shakespeare play. This is the play no one talks about. No one really likes All's Well That Ends Well, and I read it once, and I couldn't remember anything, and I'm you know what? I gotta try it again. I gotta read it again. I'll watch the play while I read along. It'll be fine. And then I did that. And then I realized why everyone doesn't like this play, why no one talks about this play. The whole reason why I bought this script in the first place is because it has my favorite Shakespeare quote in it, and that is love all, trust few, and do wrong to none. I have a magnet of it on my whiteboard over here. And I love that quote so much. When I went to go visit Shakespeare's museum, because I had a chance to do that, theater geek over here, when I had a chance to do that, I was looking around trying to find a copy of this play, and they didn't have it. I had to go up and ask the people at the counter, do you have a copy of this? And they had to dig it out from the back for me. And so that should have warned me. But again, this was a reread, so I did kind of know what was going on. I don't like it. I gave it like 2 stars. And as a Shakespeare geek, that hurts. Like, that hurts me. There's a lot of things in here where it's very dubious consent. This is a story about a woman who, like, she heals the king, and the king is like, you can marry anyone in the kingdom. I'll grant you all the wealth and status you want. And she picks, like, the prince. And then the prince is like, I don't want to marry you, and runs away, and a lot of stuff happens. And, like, again, a lot of question of consent. I didn't find most of the jokes funny. I wanted it to be better than it was, and yeah. The book I read after that is Yu Hakusho Volume 8. This is a manga I've talked quite a lot about on my channel. It is a story about a kid who dies before his time, and the afterlife is like, ooh, we don't have a place for you yet. You can come back to life as long as you work for us. And now our main character is like stuck going around trying to rid the world of the demons that have entered it. And once again, this volume specifically deals with the tournament arc where our main character had to like fight with a bunch of other demons to like rise in the ranks of the tournament. That's been going on for the past couple volumes. Still really loving it though, like honestly, still really loving it. So I don't rate manga, but you know I like this. After that, I read We the Children. This is book 1 in Keepers of the School. I've talked about this. This is by like my favorite childhood author, and then when I realized there was a series by him that I hadn't read yet, I needed to pick it up. There's like no conclusion in this book. Okay, I gave this 3 stars because I liked the setup, I liked the characters. The whole idea of this is like our main character is going to a school and the school has been sold off to this company and they have 28 days to stay at the school before it gets demolished. And, you know, that's a really cool setup, but that's kind of all it is. We don't get any of the conclusion. We have our main character like finding clues in this, and that's about it. He made a couple friends. And there's also a plot point where he sails boats. And that was the big conclusion of this, is him in a sailing competition. Has nothing to do with the school. So, again, I gave it 3 stars. There's nothing in this. I have book 2, but I think there's 5 books, and I guess I won't know if he saves the school or not. So yeah, again, it was fine. I like the writing style, and I like the author, but there's nothing in this. Another manga to talk about, and that is D. Gray Man Volume 26. This is another manga series I grew up reading. It's still ongoing, though, so I don't know the ending. But I'm really liking what it is. It's just kind of complicated to talk about. It is a story about a world where demons are infested and the only thing that can kill them is a crystal known as innocence. Our main character has had a really messed up life because he was born with the innocence embedded into his body. So that alone is a really interesting concept, but it gets really complicated and really confusing down the line. So like, I like it. It's a lot to talk about. And the one thing I have to say about this, I love the art style, but some of the panels were really, there was so much detail included, it was hard to understand what was going on. And I'm like, that's bad enough with the plot. I don't need the art style included in that. So I'm struggling. I really like this series, but I'm struggling. And finally, the last book I've talked about for my January wrap-up is The House of Many Ways. This is the final book in the Howl's Moving Castle companion series. So when I talked about this when I first got the book, I assumed that our main character was the niece of Howl. That's incorrect. She does meet Howl along the way, but she's the niece of another grand wizard. Basically, our main character grew up in a pretty mundane life until her uncle gets sick, and the uncle's like, I need someone to take care of my magical household. You are my niece, come watch it. And shenanigans ensue, basically. I liked it. It was enjoyable. I liked it a lot more than I did the second book in the series. I did not like the second book. This one I gave like 4 stars, I think. Not as good as Howl's. Definitely good than the second book I'm totally blanking on the name of. This one's fine. This one's good. I liked it. It's enjoyable. We got to experience the world again, and it was a nice conclusion to a couple things going on. But overall, if you're gonna read Howl's Moving Castle, just read Howl's Moving Castle. Don't pick up the other ones. So those are all the books I read in the month of January. If you have anything to say about any of the books I've talked about, please leave that down in the comment section down below. While you're down there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.